Hello and welcome to Citizenship Through the Ages. Today's historical campaign is the civil rights movement in the USA. After the end of the American Civil War in 1865, law was passed to end slavery. For the first time since their transportation to the nation, black Americans were legally free. Further laws followed soon after to make it illegal for people to be denied the vote or discriminated against because of the color of their skin. Despite these good intentions, black Americans were still faced with hostility and persecution. Most whites believed blacks were inferior in every way. Politically, socially, and economically, black Americans were second-class citizens. States such as Alabama introduced a series of laws to keep races separated and to control black population. These measures were nicknamed Jim Crow laws, after the fictional character in the popular minstrel shows that made fun of black people. Some examples of these laws are places open to the public, such as shops, hotels, cinemas, theatres, or libraries, had to provide separate rooms and facilities for the different races. Legally, black children could be educated in separate schools, so long as schooling was of equal educational standards. In reality, schools for black Americans were far from equal, and the quality of education provided was inferior. In 1896, the Supreme Court upheld that this policy was legal and fair. In most of the southern states, intermarriage between blacks and whites was illegal. In employment, blacks received lower pay than whites as they were restricted to work of lower statuses, such as janitors, cleaners, and porters. Southern towns were strictly segregated into black and white residential areas. It was virtually impossible for black Americans to challenge segregation in the South. To do so ran the risk of serious violence at the hands of white racists, particularly the Ku Klux Klan. In 1919, 70 black Americans were lynched. 10 of them were former soldiers who fought in World War I. A major race riot was sparked in Chicago when a black youth accidentally entered a whites-only beach. Race hatred was not simply confined to the South. In 1921, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a serious race riot took place and 25 blacks and 9 whites were killed. The result of this was inevitable. Blacks were intimidated and terrified by these frightening levels of violence and were afraid to challenge white racism. Southern states were very effective at limiting political power of black people in their boundaries, making it difficult for them to register as voters, meaning that it wasn't very easy for them to take control to stop the racism. However, some of them still tried. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister and social activist who played a key role in American civil rights movements from the mid-1950s until his assassination in 1968. Inspired by advocates of non-violence such as Gandhi, King fought for equality for African Americans. After Rosa Parks, a black woman, refused to give up her seat on the bus to a white passenger, she was arrested, causing activists to start a coordinated bus boycott that would continue for 381 days. They chose Martin Luther King Jr. as the protest's leader and official spokesman. In 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. worked with a number of civil rights and religious groups to organize a march in Washington to shed light on the injustices that African Americans continued to face across the country. It was held on August the 28th and attended by some 200,000 to 300,000 participants. The event was widely regarded as the watershed moment in history of the American civil rights movement and a factor in the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. The march included King's most famous address, known as the I Have a Dream speech, a spirited call for peace and equality. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act finally ended all state and local laws requiring segregation.